And thank you to everyone. Actually, I'm really happy. I'm really happy that we have these guidelines here. I'm really happy that we gathered so many people. I was originally hoping that we will be like 10 or 20 persons, but we are more now. So that is a good thing. That means there is a need. That means it's a confirmation as well that what we are doing is important. So I would like, first of all, to acknowledge something. And what we have to acknowledge is that talking about safeguarding is not always easy. It is not always something obvious. Because at the moment that we are acknowledging that safeguarding is an issue, we are also acknowledging that harm is possible, harm can happen. And therefore, we have the responsibility to prevent it. But it's not about only protection or prevention. It's also about creating space for young people to be free and to be safe and grow and bloom as they should bloom. But it's only possible if they feel, as we said before, safe. So the guidelines was a development that happened over a year and a half, that was within the SNAC volunteering that is coordinated by SALTO European Solidarity Corps. That is why I'm here. And it was gladly written by Anne and Xian. And I would like, from the very beginning, say thank you for your work. It is a really nice document. I will share the link of the document because there were some questions about it afterwards. I think it's also a shared effort to create quality as well in the youth work. These guidelines are for everyone, actually, because there are organizations who are starting their path in the safeguarding. They are starting the policies, therefore they need a basis, a solid basis where to start from. And there are also plenty of organizations who have already a lot of policies regarding safeguarding. And in that case, is this document the reference? We would like to have a reference when people say, okay, did we think about everything? Are we bulletproof? That we are not, because no one is bulletproof. But anyway, are we good enough for this? Are we well prepared? Do we have plans for this? So in that way, it is good for everyone. And that brings us to a bigger picture, yeah? As I said before, the bigger picture is the possibility to create programs or settings that make possible that the volunteers have a quality program, a quality experience, but is also about action. Because this, as Anne said, is not like these are the guidelines, conversation is over. It's more, these are the guidelines, and for many, conversation is beginning, and for many others, conversation is continuing, which is also a good thing. So we're going to share today as well. It's not about only saying how good the document it is. It's about as well be open. It's about asking questions. It's about learning from each other. So with this being said, I think only by doing the things together, we can do things even better. That will be from my part. I'm really, really happy, and I hope to enjoy this next minutes we're together. I will for sure, and thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Miguel, for this introduction. And as Miguel already said, we really want to start the conversation. This webinar, in a sense, is an ending because the guidelines are finally here. And it is also the continuation of this conversation. And for you, it might be the start or you're already in it. And that also immediately brings me to the guidelines themselves and the starting point for that. As Miguel said, it is so important within the European Solidarity Corps volunteering to make sure that volunteers can work and live in a safe environment. And that all the actors involved think about that. And preferably before something happens, Sometimes we are surprised. Life happens while you're making plans. I think everyone active in the volunteering context knows that that is what happens. And so that was a starting point. Like Miguel said, like no organization is bulletproof. Things happen. What can you do to create and hold that safe environment? Another starting point, and I am sure you're all aware, is that there is a wide variety of hosting organizations in Europe. From very small and local, hosting one volunteer, to huge international organizations with groups of volunteers and a lot of experience, and starting organizations and everything in between. So when Sean and I started this process, we really looked at each other like, how are we going to capture this diversity in a document? And so the way out that we found was like, okay, let's focus on two types of organizations. The organizations that don't have a safeguarding policy yet, but want to start, and the organizations that already have a policy or a code of conduct, and that want to take the next steps. So who feel we have started something, we're not done. Life still happens, we still have challenges to respond to, and we want to use those experiences to keep building our safeguarding policy. And so this is the people who this document is for. And I will take you to the document in a minute so you can see it, but I first want to highlight a couple of other things. It's not a step-by-step manual. So we did not even try to capture everything because of this wide variety, and also our experience is limited. Have we dealt with every possible safeguarding crisis? No, thank God not, because I mean, I think it's a full-time job. So it's not bullet points of do this, think about that. It's more a global picture of what are the important elements and what are the starting points. And for the organizations who already have a policy, like it's more to a reflection to look like, okay, did we think about that? Could we improve that? So it's more of checking where am I and where can we go? And we had two main focuses in the document. On the one hand, to create or renew a safeguarding policy. And then once you have it, how to implement it and monitor and evaluate it. And on the other hand, we focused on a code of conduct because we figured out that would be a great tool to actively engage the volunteers. Because we have an activity agreement between all the stakeholders, and very often they are very practical, like where will the volunteer stay, working tasks, working hours, and it's very, very important. And we think that a code of conduct could add an element of safeguarding by specifying what are the desired behaviors within the context of the hosting organization, within the context of the volunteering project, and what are the undesired behaviors. And if something happens that is inappropriate or undesired, what do you do as a volunteer, as a hosting organization? So those are the two main focuses that we took for the document. And I think this would be a good time to also show you the document for the people who haven't seen it yet. So give me a minute to get there. And as Miguel said, we will share the link. And I will not be highlighting everything. I will just take you through it shortly because it would be boring and everybody can read it for themselves. So this is what the guidelines look like. And as you can see, as I said, so the two main focuses of this document are a safeguarding policy, what is it and how do you set it up, and the code of conduct as a very practical connection to the activity agreement. And then, of course, we also go deeper into what do you do if something happens? So the reporting and escalation mechanisms, and how can you prevent things from happening. And we also have some best practices. But as I said, I don't want to go through the document point by point. So you can see that this is the focus. So organizations who want to start, organizations who are already there. It's a broad target group. So basically everybody in hosting organizations who is willing to dive into safeguarding or setting up a code of conduct. Also the national agencies, because they play a crucial role when crises happen. So it's also for them. And of course, also for mentors, because they also play a crucial role when crises happen. They are usually the people who hear about it for the first. So we also wanted to include them as stakeholders, and also encourage hosting organizations, like if you go for a safeguarding policy, please include them, make them a part of it, make them aware of it. So these are the people we really think are important. So as you can see, I already said it before, we try to also make it a document of reflection so that the organizations who are already active can also think about, like, where are we in the spectrum? And we also have questions for mentors because we think they are so important. So you also will see that throughout the document. And here we have some examples, because we had a seminar last year in September in Riga with organizations where we had a draft version of this document, and we asked the input of people in the field, and we had a brainstorming the first evening. So even during the introduction evening, where everybody's still a bit like, who's here, what's happening? Like, can you give an example of what situation safeguarding would be needed for? And this is what they said in the first round. You know, mental health issues, inappropriate behavior from leadership, homesickness, emotional support, natural disasters. We even had an example of one of my volunteers got stuck in the mountains and they had to rescue him with a helicopter, that we were like, oh, okay. And inappropriate behavior among volunteers. So immediately, already on the first evening, we realized, like, this is very much alive. This is not far away. These are issues that happen in all kinds of organizations across Europe. So we gave it as an example. There are many more, but just to give a reference of what are we talking about, because it's wide and it's also very diverse. So then, of course, we have a definition of what is a safeguarding policy. And we also have some examples of what is part of a safeguarding policy. So you can see it here, like prevention, before intervention, do no harm, empowerment. I think that is a big word within the European Solidarity Corps, volunteering also, dignity. And so it is designed to create that safe environment. And then this is the most practical part of these guidelines, is like, how do you create or renew an organizational policy? So what are the steps? And here you see them. So appointing a team, assessing the needs, defining your goals, action planning, identifying resources, drafting the policy, verifying, and then the final review. And the final review is never final. That's also one of the things that I really took from this seminar, that somebody said, like, nice try, and then it starts again, right? And we were like, yes, of course. So you do the final review and then something happens and you add another layer to your safeguarding policy. So it's not finished. It keeps going. And then when you have one, important elements in implementing it is communication, very important. Also training and capacity building, so that everybody in the organization is on board. tools and resources and make them easy, accessible, and available to everybody involved. That also seemed the key element, like we have them, but who has access to them? So that's also important to think about. And then, of course, you have the policy, you implement it, then you also need to monitor it. And that again is where mentors also play a role, like because they keep the finger on the pulse, like how is the volunteer doing? So also there, it's important to involve them. So then we have the code of conduct, which is next to the safeguarding policy, the other main element of this document, just to keep you clear on where are we. Because as I said before, activity agreement is in place. All the actors are clear on this is how we are going to do it. And a code of conduct can be an easy document to add and to agree on and to actively involve the volunteers, because that's also what the participants in Riga said, like, where is the volunteer? Like, where do we involve them? This is an early point to involve the volunteer and to make them aware, like we have a safeguarding policy. There is a code of conduct. It is clear who to contact when something happens. This is the role that your mentor plays. Are the different roles. So I think it's important to add that to activity agreements, to really have safeguarding as part of that, and to not wait till something happens, but to do it already before. And again, you see we have examples, reflection questions, again, to see for organizations to see like, okay, where are we? Or if we start, what are important elements? So that keeps coming back. And then this is also very important, the reporting and escalation mechanism. So something happens and what to do. So this is a very schematic approach, very easy to check, like, do we have everything? If something happens, who should be involved? And what are the steps to follow? And this, again, as Miguel already said, it's not about being perfect or bulletproof or being a good student and follow all the steps. It might be different in reality, but it's a good checklist just to check, like, did we think about everything? Or did we forget something important, and can we add it for a next crisis or a next version of our safeguarding policy? So you can check that out. So I think these are as you see, we have also some best practices that came from the participants in Riga. And these are some things that they used and found really useful. So one of the issues that they said, like, very often volunteers don't tell us about their mental health issues because they're scared that they won't be selected if they tell us in advance. So this is a letter that they send after the volunteers are already selected. So they can share what is going on, and to make it very clear that it is confidential and that it is for the organization to prepare for them coming, so that there are no consequences in terms of selection or deselection, or, you know. So that is something that they were very excited about and that they share. I think probably all of these organizations that were in Riga are now doing this. And another issue that keeps coming back is, what is an emergency? And can volunteers call you in the middle of the night? Of course, if they are having an accident or something is very important and needs action immediately, of course. But how do they decide? So we took, that's one of the annexes you see also here, assessments, but we also have an example of what is an emergency. And that was also shared to us in Riga. So we added those elements that we thought, like, this could be useful for other organizations. And I personally hope that the list will grow a lot longer, because this is just the start, as I said, like the start of the process. And we want to add many more good examples, good practices, because I think that makes it concrete. So let me stop sharing the document. And I just want to take a couple more minutes to share some insights. I already shared some of them, but I think this is the juice to the document. So I just want to share some of that juice and not only the document, because we can all read. But just, I think this is important, that that's also what we realized in Riga, that putting a safeguarding policy or a code of conduct or both in place is a really vulnerable process for organizations. There is a resistance because they have a feeling like, is it not opening Pandora's box? Like if we put in place mechanisms where people can report things, will it not boom? Like, is everybody there suddenly with, this and that? And so it creates a feeling of vulnerability, of opening a box that you cannot close anymore. So it was really good that some experienced organizations were there and said like, no, we had the same feeling when we started, but in reality, that's not the case. It's just your own fear of, opening Pandora's box. So I think it's good to be aware of that there will be resistance and that some people are going to say like, no, we're not going to put it on paper. Let's just do it in practice because, the more we talk about it, the more it will explode, which is not the case, but it's normal, I think, to have that feeling. And it's not about being perfect. It's not about being bulletproof, as Miguel said, about having everything in place, but being aware of the challenges that present them and deal with them and learn from that. So that is also an important element that we highlighted in the document. Like, work with what you have, because so many hosting organizations, they survived the pandemic. They already had volunteers getting stuck in the mountains. They had mental health issues. They already have a lot of experience that they might not be aware of, that they can use to craft this safeguarding policy. It's not starting from zero, and it's not about being perfect. So I think that's important to highlight. And this is also very important, like, it's not about doing it all, because organizations also think like, I have to do everything and I have to do it on my own. And that's also what became very clear during the seminar, is like, the more you do it together with others, you talk about it, you use the experience of other organizations, you inspire each other, the better. And it's also really important to know your limitations. Like, if you don't have a person who can deal with mental health issues, like, is there another organization you can work together with? Can you refer volunteers to a professional? It's those kind of reflections that are important, to know your limitations, and to find solutions that are not within the organization, but within your bigger orb or atmosphere. So I think that is also important. So those were the main insights that I also wanted to share. And I just want to check, Miguel, do you still want to add something important that I forgot to say?
No, thank you. I think you said it all. I think it's also quite important, while you were explaining, that there are so many examples from organizations who have had in the past a lot of these experiences. That makes the document per se powerful, but it also can give us this idea, okay, but this what happened to us is not here. I want to include these organizations. Not everything that is not written does not mean it's not considered. And you have to take that also as something that has its own limitations. And of course, most of the organizations with the exchange we had with them, a lot of them also recognize which national safety nets exist. And that's, of course, something that we can also not put in the document. So those kind of stuff, those kind of things, those things that they are for us, not, let's put it universal in this case, of course, will not be there, but we are well aware that there are plenty of those, and we are well aware that they are necessary. And that will be also a thing from the future, is also a part of the exchange we had in Riga, is which mechanisms are coming in the future. When the program changes, when the program is new, is it going to be possible to have other mechanisms? Do we have to think about it? Of course, at this stadium, I cannot say that because I have no idea, and none of my colleagues working in a national agency have that either. However, we can definitely start to ask ourselves if there's something else needed, but that's another chapter in another level. So I think with this, you were quite precise in what is going on, what happened there. And I think now is the moment to have the part when we share also a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So we would like to invite you to also give some input about your experience, because as I said, it is the juice to the document. And we would love to hear from you.